K9 uncovers secret beneath toy store. The trail led somewhere far darker. It was a bright Saturday afternoon when everything changed. The Brightness Toy Hub, the biggest toy store in the city, was packed with excited kids and parents holding shopping. Bags and birthday lists. The shelves were full of blinking lights, action figures, and stuffed animals. Laughter echoed through the aisles as kids pulled their parents from one colorful display to another. No one noticed the little girl in the yellow polka dot dress slip away. But Ghost noticed. Ghost, a white Belgian Malinois with sharp blue eyes, stood alert beside his handler, Detective Callum Reyes, just outside the store. Callum, 38, was known for keeping calm during chaos. He had a tired look in his eyes, the kind that came from seeing too many terrible things. Most people didn't know he was carrying a heavy weight inside. His young niece had gone missing years ago and was never found. Today, he was just supposed to pick up a report from the mall security office. But then a voice broke through the speakers. Attention. Code Amber. Missing child in Brightness Toy Hub. Female. Age 5. Name. Mira Fallon. Last seen near aisle 7. Callum froze. His jaw tightened. He looked down at Ghost. The dog was already. Alert, ears high, tail stiff. Callum gave the command. Let's move, Ghost. Inside the store, panic had already started. Myra's mother, Danielle Fallon, stood near the customer service counter, shaking, her voice cracking. She was just right here. I only turned for 1 second. Callum gently placed a hand on her shoulder and asked calming questions. What was she wearing? What was she holding? Did she say anything? Danielle tried to answer, but her words broke apart. She had a pink bunny, and her hair was in 2 braids. I just don't understand. She was looking at the dollhouse display. Ghost began sniffing the air, nose low to the ground. The dog moved slowly toward aisle 7. Ignoring the shouts in the crowd, Callum followed close behind, flashing his badge to clear the path. The store that had felt loud just a minute ago now felt too quiet, tense, like it was holding its breath. Near the end of the aisle, Ghost stopped suddenly. He let out a low growl. Callum knelt down. What is it, boy? There, near the edge of a toy shelf, was a small gold bracelet with the name Mira etched into it. It was half hidden under a plush giraffe. Ghost pawed the ground next to it, then sniffed the air again, turning toward the back of the store. His body stiffened as he pointed toward a hallway marked employees only. A store manager stepped in front of them. Sir, customers aren't allowed back there. Callum didn't hesitate. I'm not a customer, he said, flashing his badge again. Step aside. As Ghost pushed through the swinging door, the lights dimmed and the air grew colder. Boxes were stacked high, and the smell of rubber and cardboard filled the hallway. Callum noticed a faint smear on the floor, like something had been dragged. Ghost sniffed along the wall, then stopped again. He scratched lightly at a closed metal door. Callum tested the handle. It was locked. A second later, a worker rounded the corner. Benji Pike, a smiling young man with a red apron and a walkie-talkie on his belt. Hey, everything okay? This area's usually locked up after lunch delivery. I can grab the keys if you want. Callum looked him over. Benji seemed helpful, but something about his too friendly smile made him pause. Do that, Callum said. Benji walked off. Ghost kept his eyes fixed on the locked door. Within minutes, the hallway filled with more officers, and Benji returned with keys. Callum opened the door, but behind it was just a mop bucket and shelves. No child still. Ghost sniffed the corner and let out another soft growl. Callum turned to Danielle, who was now standing behind the line of officers, holding Myra's bunny. Her face was pale. You'll find her, he said quietly, but inside, he was thinking something else entirely. Not again, not this time. Ghost sat beside him, tail thumping once. His eyes stayed locked on the shadows ahead. Somewhere in this bright and happy toy store, a child was missing, and Ghost was the only one who could truly see the path ahead. The toy store was still buzzing with nervous energy. Parents held their kids closer. Workers whispered. The once cheerful music playing over the speakers now felt strange and wrong. Callum moved quickly, following Ghost deeper into the store's back hallways. The dog's nose brushed the floor, tail rigid like an arrow. They passed stacks of shipping, boxes and cleaning supplies. At one point, Ghost stopped at a corner and sniffed the ground. His body stiffened. He scratched gently at a scuff mark on the tile. Callum leaned down. A small piece of pink thread clung to the base of a metal cart. Myra's jacket had pink stitching. She came through here, Callum muttered, as officers sealed off the front of the store. Callum stepped into the loading dock. row of metal doors stood closed. One had tire marks near it, like a cart had been dragged out in a rush. Ghost sniffed again and veered toward the left, where a plain brown door sat slightly ajar. Inside was a dim break room. It smelled like burnt coffee and cleaning spray. On the table sat a paper cup with a red lipstick print. A vending machine hummed in the corner. On the far side of the room, a small gray locker was cracked open. Ghost nosed his way in. Callum followed. Inside the locker, hidden behind a pile of coats, was a child's pink shoe, not new, dirty, and scuffed, but small. It matched the missing report from a different girl taken months ago in another town. Callum's stomach dropped. This wasn't random, he whispered. Just then, someone came running. Down the hall, it was Officer Tessa Dean, one of the newer recruits. We caught a janitor leaving out the side exit, she said. Had a weird story. Said someone paid him cash to cause a distraction in aisle 7. Callum's eyes narrowed. Who? She shook her head. Didn't see the face. Said it was a man in a red apron. That narrowed it down to at least a dozen workers. Ghost led them to another hallway. This one dusty and narrow. The walls were marked with safety posters and delivery maps. As they turned the corner, Callum spotted Benji Pike again, the friendly employee from earlier. Benji smiled as he approached. Still no luck, huh? He asked, a little too casual. Ghost growled. Callum stiffened. You said you worked here for 2 years? Benji nodded. That's right. Just got promoted to stock lead last month. Callum stepped closer. Have you ever worked in Hastings County? Benji hesitated. It was barely noticeable, but Ghost noticed. His ears perked. He growled again, deeper this time. Benji cleared his throat. Nope, first retail job, funny. Callum said slowly. We just found a shoe from a missing kid who disappeared in Hastings. From a toy store, Benji's jaw clenched. Lots of stores sell toys. Callum didn't respond. Instead, he reached for his radio, Unit 4, requesting full employee background checks. Focus on anyone with transfers from out of state. Benji backed away. Hey, I'm just trying to help. You can't seriously think. But Ghost wasn't fooled. He lunged forward suddenly, barking at a metal arcade cabinet in the break area. The screen was dark. It hadn't worked in years, Ghost? Callum said, confused. The dog scratched at the corner of the cabinet, then sat back, staring at it. Callum stepped over and knelt. Behind the machine, hidden under a dusty plastic mat, was something strange. A handle, a trapdoor. His heart pounded. Dean, get back up, now. He pulled on the handle. The trapdoor creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading downward. It smelled musty and cold. You've got to be kidding me, Callum said. He looked back, but Benji was gone. Ghost growled low, staring down into the darkness. Callum's voice was tight. All right, partner, let's go find her. He clicked his flashlight. On, the beam lit up rows of brick walls, pipes, and shadows. As they stepped into the tunnel, Callum felt the air grow heavy. This wasn't just a missing child case anymore. It was something bigger, something hidden right under their feet. And he had the sick feeling it had been there for a long time. Ghost sniffed the ground and moved forward. Tail steady, Callum followed, heart thudding in his chest. The staircase was old and narrow. It creaked under every step. Cold air brushed Callum's skin as he followed Ghost deeper into the tunnel. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness, bouncing off dusty walls and exposed pipes. The tunnel curved slowly, leading them away from the toy store. Ghost moved carefully, but with purpose. Nose low to the ground, tail stiff. His growl came soft but steady, like a warning that danger wasn't far. At the end of the tunnel, they reached a metal door. It looked rusted, with chipped paint and no signs. Callum tested the knob. Locked. He stepped back and gave it one hard kick. The door creaked open. Inside was a dark, empty photo studio, an old one with cracked walls and dusty shelves. A large camera was still set up in the center, aimed at a backdrop of cartoon stars. It had been out of business for years, but someone had been using it. In the back of the room were several folding chairs, blankets, and food wrappers. There was a small backpack with a cartoon unicorn on it, the same one Myra's mother described. Ghost barked loudly, his body frozen, pointing toward a pile of boxes stacked high against the wall. Callum moved quickly, his heart pounding. He yanked the boxes away. Behind them, curled up and frightened, was Myra. Her face was pale, her cheeks streaked with tears, but she was alive. Her wrists were loosely tied with a shoelace, and she clutched Ghost's collar the moment she saw him. Ghost leaned in close, licking her hand. She let out a small, shaking breath. "Doggy," she whispered. Callum dropped to his knees. "It's okay. You're safe now. I'm Officer Reyes. I'm going to take you home." Myra nodded slowly, tears still in her eyes. Callum gently untied her wrists. He held her for a moment, then radioed in. "Unit 4. Child found. Myra is alive. Repeat, Myra is safe. Send medical." But just as he said the words, the sound of footsteps echoed from the far hallway. Callum stood quickly and pulled Myra behind him. Ghost growled again, louder this time. Out of the shadows stepped Benji Pike, but Benji wasn't smiling now. His apron was gone. He wore all black, and in his hand was a small black duffel bag. "You really should have stayed upstairs, Detective," he said, his voice cold and flat. Callum narrowed his eyes. "Your name's not Benji, is it?" The man smirked. "It's been a few names. Depends on the state." Ghost stepped forward, growling, ready to strike. Benji or Beckett Van, as Callum would later learn, raised a hand. "Relax, it's over. I was packing up anyway. Got sloppy this time." "I admit," Callum's voice was low. "You kidnapped a child in broad daylight. That's not sloppy. That's bold and disgusting." Beckett's smirk faded. "You don't get it, do you? This place, this store, this town, is just one spot on the map. There are more. There's always more." Callum's stomach turned. He could feel Myra clutching his pant leg. "You're done," he said firmly. "You're not walking out of here, Beckett." Took a step toward the door. Ghost barked sharply, "Try it." Callum warned. "He's faster than you." Beckett lunged. Callum yelled, "Take him." Ghost flew forward like a white blur. He clamped down on Beckett's arm. Just as the man reached for the doorknob, Beckett screamed, dropping the bag as Ghost dragged him to the floor. Callum rushed forward, handcuffing him quickly. "Who else is involved?" he demanded. Beckett said nothing. He just laughed bitterly. Callum searched the duffel bag. Inside were zip ties, a burner phone, chloroform, and a notebook full of names and dates. Callum's blood turned cold. It wasn't just about Myra. These were other kids. Some have already taken, some maybe not yet. Ghost stood beside him, breathing hard but still focused, still guarding. Callum looked down at Beckett. "You're going to talk, and if you don't, we'll find the ones who will." Beckett didn't answer, but Callum didn't care. He scooped Myra into his arms and nodded toward the stairs. Officers were already rushing down, lights flashing, radios buzzing. Callum looked at Ghost. "Let's bring her home, partner." Ghost wagged his tail once, but his eyes stayed sharp, because they both knew this wasn't over yet. Myra sat quietly on the bench outside the toy store, wrapped in a blanket. Her eyes were tired, and her bunny was tucked tightly under her arm. Paramedics checked her gently, while her mother knelt in front of her, crying, softly and whispering, "I've got you now. I've got you." Callum stood a few feet away, watching. Ghost lay beside Myra, tail slowly thumping, eyes watchful. He hadn't left her side since they found her. Callum felt a knot in his chest. He'd kept his promise. He had saved Myra, but the feeling didn't bring peace. It brought more questions. He opened the black duffel bag again. Inside were names, addresses, and times, written in strange codes. Some names he recognized from missing children reports. Others were new. Then he found it, a name he hadn't spoken in years. Lena Reyes, his niece. Her name was next to a place in another state. No date, no update, just her name. As if she was part of a long, unfinished list. His hand shook slightly. "Detective Reyes," said a voice behind him. It was Detective Aria Moreno, his old partner. She had short dark hair and sharp eyes. She'd been chasing child traffickers in a different county, but came as soon as she heard about the case. She looked over the papers and let out a slow breath. "This is a network. Callum. This guy, Beckett. He's not the boss. He's just a link in the chain." "I know," Callum said quietly. "And I think that chain is longer than we realized." They took Beckett to the station. He didn't say much, just sat there with a blank face. Aria and Callum asked him again and again who else was involved. He only replied once, "You'll never touch them. They're shadows. I'm just the errand." "Boy," Ghost growled at him from under the table. Callum and Aria laid out the names and photos across the station wall. Some of the kids had been missing for years. Others were new. Together, they began making connections between locations, stores, and fake IDs. Callum stared at Lena's name. She might still be alive. He whispered. Aria put a hand on his shoulder. "Then we're going to find her, all of them." Later that night, after the press had left and the toy store had gone dark, Callum sat on the steps of the police station. Ghost rested beside him, head on his paws. The stars above were faint, but the night air was cool. Callum reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a drawing, done in crayons. Myra had given it to him just before she left the hospital. It showed her, smiling, holding Ghost's leash. Callum stood beside them, tall and serious. Above their heads were bright yellow stars. Under their feet were hearts. She had written one word in shaky, blocky letters. Safe. Callum stared at it for a long time. "I think she saved me too," he said to Ghost. The dog gave a soft huff, like he understood. In the days that followed, more leads came in, more names, other stores, other towns. Some leads didn't go anywhere. Others opened new doors, some to truth, some to horror. But Callum kept going. So did Ghost. Every time the phone rang, Ghost was up and ready, nose twitching. The community responded too. Parents came to the station with thanks. Kids brought handmade cards for Ghost. One bakery dropped off a cake shaped like a dog bone. The town had a hero now, and his name was Ghost. But Callum knew this wasn't about one dog or one man. It was about the children who still hadn't come home. One evening, Aria walked in with new files and said, "We found a warehouse 3 towns over. Matches the pattern. Are you ready?" Callum stood. Always, Ghost hopped up, tail wagging once, sharp-eyed and steady. As they headed for the door, Callum whispered to his partner, "We're not stopping, boy. Not until we bring them all home." Ghost barked softly, and the two walked into the night. They weren't just chasing shadows anymore. They were lighting a path through the darkness, together.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Love Tales of Tales, for long, heartwarming pets and animals. Love stories that stay with you long after they end.